Before starting the video, I must tell you that if you are a girl, you absolutely must watch this video to the end. This is the story of two such girls who were repeatedly subjected to horrific abuse by a group of men. But those two girls never gave up and took their revenge on every single one of those men, one by one. Let's find out how. The story begins with two girls named Katie and Nessie, who were architecture students. They were excited to be heading to an agricultural farm in New York for their studies, happy they'd also get to do a lot of shopping there. The next morning, their uncle Jason, an FBI agent, comes to pick them up. When they arrive at Jason's house, they meet his girlfriend, who is very happy to see them. Once in the new city, Katie and Nessie decide to adopt new names. Katie names herself Heather, and Nessie chooses Rapley. The next day, Jason takes them to the bus stop as Katie and Nessie need to go to the agricultural farm for their studies. Jason waits with them for the New York-bound bus. Katie tells Jason to leave, saying they'll be on their way and will text him once they reach the farm. Jason tells them to use a code word so he knows they're safe. Katie says she'll use the word apple, but Jason insists they must use a different letters word every time so no one can crack their code. Just then, two boys passing on the road spot Katie and Nessie. After Jason leaves, Katie and Nessie go to a restaurant for coffee, where the same two boys named Jed and Lucas show up. They start a conversation. Katie and Nessie introduce themselves as Heather and Rapley. Katie mentions they are going to an agriculture farm in New York for their studies. Jed tells them they're also heading the same way and offers them a ride to the farm. Katie initially refuses, but Nessie manages to convince her to go with them. From there, the two boys do not take Katie and Nessie to the farm, but instead drive them to their house, located deep inside a forest. Seeing this, Katie and Nessie become alarmed and immediately demand to be taken to the farm. Just then, Jed and Lucas's mother emerges from the house and warmly invites them inside for tea. She assures them that Jed and Lucas will take them to the farm afterward. While they are drinking tea, Katie receives a text message from her uncle Jason. Katie replies with the code word apple, which makes Jason believe they have safely reached the farm. Lucas's mom then offers them something to eat. As soon as they eat it, Katie and Nessie start feeling dizzy because the food was laced with drugs. They immediately realize something is wrong and try to run, but after a short distance, they pass out and fall to the ground. Jed and Lucas pick them up and carry them back into the house. The next day, when they wake up, they find themselves tied with iron chains in the forest. They are terrified and start screaming for help. Jed arrives and tells them they are in such a remote part of the jungle that there are no people for miles, so their screaming is pointless. A little later, a man named Boris shows up. He shows Katie her phone, saying someone named Jason texted her and that she had replied with the word apple last time. He demands to know what it means. Katie tells him it's a code word meaning they are fine. Boris then replies to Jason, writing, "We are enjoying here, and everything is fine," and uses apple as the code word again. After this, the men force Katie and Nessie to bathe in front of them. Suddenly, a police officer named Sheriff arrives. Katie and Nessie immediately beg him for help, but they soon realize the police officer is also in on it with Jed and Lucas. They are horrified. Katie and Nessie try to reason with them, pleading, "Please let us go, we won't tell anyone." But the men ignore them. The police officer takes some drugs and chooses Katie for himself. After a while, we see the police officer emerge from the container with Katie, which indicates he has sexually assaulted her. Meanwhile, on the other side, we see Jason, who is deeply worried about Katie and Nessie because Katie used the same code word apple twice. The men then send a drunken, drugged man into Katie's container. He burns her stomach with a lit cigarette and then sexually assaults her. These men have crossed all boundaries of humanity. Jason calls the New York agricultural farm to inquire about Katie and Nessie and is told they never arrived. Jason realizes they are in serious trouble and immediately leaves to search for them. Meanwhile, things get even worse for Katie and Nessie. Before the next customer arrives, Jed and Lucas place masks over their faces, and the customer arrives wearing a pig mask. Jed and Lucas remove the girls' masks to show their faces to the customer. Katie and Nessie are even more terrified seeing the man in the pig mask. The man chooses Nessie and takes her into the container, where he sexually assaults her. After he leaves, Katie goes to Nessie and sees that she is in terrible condition. On the other side, Jason arrives at the police station and encounters the same police officer who abused Katie. Jason informs him about the kidnapping of Katie and Nessie, revealing he is an FBI agent. The police officer asks how he knows they've been kidnapped. Jason explains that he told his niece Katie to use the code word only once, but she used the same one again. The police officer immediately alerts Boris in the jungle that Katie's uncle is an FBI agent and that Katie gave them the wrong information about the code word. Boris takes Jed some distance from Katie's container and tells him they must get rid of the two girls as soon as possible, or they could be in trouble. He adds that they also need to capture the new girls arriving from the city. Katie is standing near her container and overhears their entire conversation. After this, Boris enters Katie's container and sexually assaults her. Jason reaches the restaurant where Katie and Nessie met the two boys. Jason asks a worker there about Katie and Nessie, and the man tells him about Boris's car. The next day, Katie tells Nessie that the men are planning to kill them. Just then, Jed and Boris bring the same drugged man who had abused Katie. They tell him they'll be back soon, and until then, he must keep an eye on the girls so they don't escape. As soon as they leave, Katie tries to seduce the drugged man, encouraging him to be intimate with her. As Katie gets close to the man, she bites his neck hard, causing blood to flow, and the drugged man dies there. The two girls unlock their handcuffs and hide. When the police officer arrives, they secretly take his car and drive away. They go to a mall and buy a lot of strange items like hammers, many nails, tennis balls, and dangerous weapons. They then ask the cashier for Boris's home address, and the cashier gives it to them. Meanwhile, Jason goes to Boris's car insurance company and gets his home address. Boris is at his house, enjoying music when Katie and Nessie arrive. They throw a tennis ball covered with many nails at his face, knocking him unconscious. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a table. Boris tries to bribe them with a lot of money to let him go, but Katie and Nessie only want revenge. Their uncle Jason has also arrived outside Boris's house. Inside the house, Katie and Nessie ask Boris for the address of the pig mask man, and Boris gives it to them. They then shove a baseball bat covered with nails up his anus. Hearing Boris scream, Jason quickly enters the house where he finds Boris dead. He then hears a car start at the back of the house. By the time he gets outside, Katie and Nessie are gone. Jason quickly returns to the police station and again asks the policeman about Katie and Nessie. Just then, Jason calls Katie, only to find that her phone is in the possession of the policeman. Before Jason can react, the policeman holds a gun to his back. On the other side, Katie and Nessie arrive at a church where they discover that the pig mask man is the church father. Nessie approaches him with a baseball bat. The man immediately recognizes her, and Katie, coming from behind, attacks his head with a baseball bat, knocking him unconscious. They tie him behind the car and drag him to the town. They buy matches and petrol from a shop, douse him in petrol, and burn him alive. The policeman has locked up Jason. A little later, he kidnaps two new girls and brings them there. As he starts to sexually assault them, Katie and Nessie sneak up behind him and attack his head with a baseball bat, knocking him out. When he wakes up, he finds himself tied to a chair and starts begging them for forgiveness. Katie loads the gun with only one bullet and threatens him. They take turns shooting at him, but he survives all the shots, and a slight smile appears on his face. In the very next moment, Katie gives him the final shot and kills him. Katie and Nessie then untie the two kidnapped girls and tell them to free Jason. They leave immediately. The girls free Jason and tell him that those girls told them to do so. Jason now realizes that those two girls were none other than Katie and Nessie. Meanwhile, we see Jed and Lucas's mother, who is drinking. Suddenly, she feels a strange dizziness and collapses unconscious. When she wakes up, Katie and Nessie have tied her to a chair in the basement. They have also tied Jed right in front of her. Katie and Nessie repeatedly hit Jed with a baseball bat in front of his mother, eventually killing him. His mother starts crying loudly. They then take her to Lucas. They hand Lucas a baseball bat and tell him to kill his own mother, threatening him that if he doesn't, they will beat him to death. But Lucas can't do it, so Nessie kills him with a knife. Finally, they reach the New York agricultural farm, and the movie ends here. So, friends, how did you like this story? I hope you enjoyed it. See you with another unique story.